Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. Excuse me if this might be a little bit more of an intimate review because it's a little bit late, so people are sleeping. And I also have dinner waiting for me, and it is late hours. I went down to San Diego to check this out, and needless to say, traffic down to San Diego at the hours of like 5. Anyone who lives down here knows how that goes. It was just horrendous. So finally got back home and went to check this out at a local theater at the Digital Gem Cinema. Very good theater. If anybody in the area knows that specific theater, go support it. It's a nonprofit organization, so please, give them the support because they're a nice little organization. They had this film, and I was curious to check it out based on the small snippets that I saw. And I have my thoughts on it. So the film we're going to discuss here is Blue Sun Palace, which was written and directed by Constance Sang, as they say the person's name. This is her directorial debut, and this had its world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival back in May of 2024. Finally gained distribution here in the U.S. and circling around now, making its way through any theater chains that choose to pick it up. And as the story goes, it is centralizing basically that on three people. We follow first through the eyes of a character named Diddy, who is also in a relationship with a man named Chung, and both of which, they seem kind of just okay with each other. There's nothing really there just yet, but something is being cooked, I guess you could say, to use a Gen Z term. And we get to meet Diddy's friend, who is Amy, and both of which run a spa, and a little bit of a sleazy spa, to say the least, because there's some activities per se, some stereotypes, I'll admit, that take place in the spa, and their hopes are to get out of this place and to start up a business, specifically in the restaurant business, the food business, in New York. And they're doing as they do. And one day, they are celebrating the Chinese New Year, and because they are of Chinese descent, a man walks in and has a gun, and unfortunately takes the life of one of these characters. And then our focus then follows on Diddy's friend, that of Amy, and her dealings and the fallout of the situation, and contrasting to that, Diddy's interest, we'll say, in the form of Chung, as these two start to form a very specific bond that may or may not lean into the vein of romance or maybe something different entirely. And the film explores that bond and what that bond means to them individually, and ultimately their dealings of the loss of the person named Diddy. So I was curious by the trailer because I found the overall mood of it to be rather captivating. I always like films that kind of sit in a very muted type of environment, and this certainly is one of those. And there definitely are technical feats to it that I found to be very, very fascinating. Just by delivery of its craftsmanship, just the timing of its shots. It's a film that definitely takes its time. For as long as it plays, just checking the time, it plays just roughly 2 hours. It feels like it is stretching. It feels like it's a film that ultimately feels like that of a 3-hour sit, but it's not in the vein that feels unwarranted. It actually feels justified in its very, very slow type of pace. And by just visual, by what I'm seeing, by just the framework, it's quite a stunning looking film to look at. And performance-wise, there's some merit there, albeit that all of them kind of operate under the same kind of levels. There's not someone who's kind of breaking that spirit. Everyone kind of still sits within this very subtle and quiet type demeanor, and some of it's warranted based on characterizations, and others it just feels like we're just kind of trying to smooth, just kind of keep within the same sort of tones rather than giving variations of such. But as I've kind of illustrated through the synopsis, it's a film that tackles about grief. It's a tackling about desirings of genuine connections, and that variation within grief. Ultimately, as I've talked about, how these characters, how they interact with Diddy, their relationship to Diddy, and how that informs their characters. In the case of Amy, it's a personal friend. So for her, she's taking it in a very specific way. For Chung's case, it is, for him, a woman that he happens to have attractions for. Because, as we established very, very early on in the film, Chun is married. So this is an affair that he is having. And as Chung ultimately kind of represents, and as the film also kind of illustrates throughout in specific ways, there's also this commentary about toxicity within masculine figures. And the film kind of hovers a lot through these ideas. There's not as much a central conceit as there is just a floating of ideas, mainly that of grief. That's mainly what the film's tackling. But there is these other ideas that also are taking shape. And for that, I feel that what you get in terms of a narrative is something a bit, how do I say it? Just a bit off-putting and a bit counterproductive. I found the overall just approach to its story, like just what the story literally is, how this relationship progresses. Like in some instances, I can compare it to like a film like Lost in Translation, where that relationship, it's forming into a specific way. And at least for my money, how I took that progression, I felt that it actually undermines the actual ideas that the film was wanting to comment on. In the case of this, it flirts with an idea, and it actually doesn't go in that direction. But the way that it handles this idea and the way it handles just again, this specific bond at the center of it, I feel it actually develops the ideas to where they act more apparent and more obvious rather than further extensions to the people that we're following. It doesn't feel like that we're actually feeling more. It actually feels like we're actually creating more distance per the actions of the characters. And I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if that's by design, but I feel as though the actions of the characters don't line up or have as much meaning to what is actually written on the page. It's a story that I feel like kind of acts or ultimately kind of roots against itself in some manners because of what these characters and their interactions to each other, like, it just feels odd, to say the least. In just essence of what I'm describing, basically that of two people who have had a specific connection to a certain person then start to have a certain bond towards each other. You can see where it kind of gets a little bit blurry in terms of having these commentaries and these ideas floating around. It just makes me wonder, what is the essence in this bond? What is the significance? And I guess in some manner, for the characters, it is that also is the question that they're wrestling with at the same time. But I think that without that solidarity, you're just left with a sense of doubt within that depiction and within that confines of that specific relationship. But by aesthetic, by general just vibe, by how everything is laid out to you, by pacing, by structure, I think that there is a lot there to be desired. And I think that performances-wise, it's also fairly interesting. but I just take issues with just how it is literally told, what is literally being told to me, what I'm literally seeing play out. I just don't think that relationship really, I just don't think that it actually lines up to what is being written. I just don't think it feels natural. I don't feel like that it actually makes things more sincere and genuine. It just creates more confusion and more doubts as to how I'm supposed to feel within these interactions. So, because I just don't see why you would go for that guy, especially knowing what the relationship was with as your friend, and then vice versa. I don't understand why he would think to go for this person, knowing the relationship that they have from, it's just odd, And I get for the characters it's also odd, but it's just for us as the audience, it's also frankly odd. So I think that's a good piece, but I think that it's far too easygoing, a bit aimless in terms of its storytelling. And I see in the confines of what it's talking about loneliness, about grief, about these other ideas, I could see where that may make sense in how it's materialized and how it's structured and how it's formed. But it's more in a maybe and not in a solid grounds. And I just wish that it was more solid than questionable at best. So those are my thoughts on Blue Sun Palace. I thought it was good, but I don't think that it was great. I think that there are issues with how it is told, but by a visual medium, by performances, by overall just technical fronts, I think that there's a lot there, and that's where the film definitely flourishes. I just think that by how it's told, I think that there are fundamental issues that I feel get in the way of its thematic study. It's clearly sincere in its approach, but doubtful in its overall characteristics and developments. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Blue Sun Palace. You guys know your thoughts on Blue Sun Palace if you guys have seen it. It's playing in some small theaters here and there. Let me know if you guys checked it out. And yeah, so that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Sorry if my focus kept going on and off. I don't know why my camera's just acting weird right now. So my apologies, but let me know your thoughts on Blue Sun Palace if you guys have seen it in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.